Hello everyone, welcome to English class. Today's topic is the history of video gaming. Today we're going to read an article about the video gaming. We will also study grammar section, reported speech, and verb plus preposition. The keywords for today's topic are video games, device, Pong, player, popular, and points. Let's start. The first exercise in your book is look at the photo in the timeline of video gaming and discuss the questions. Since I have not included the picture in my presentation, you are going to look at the picture in your book and answer these questions. What can you see in the photo? When do you think it was taken? How many differences can you think of between the game in the photo and modern video games? After you have completed exercise number 1 and answered the questions, then we move on to exercise number 2, read the timeline of video gaming and answer the questions. So first, let's read the article. A timeline of video gaming, 1970. The first video games appeared in the 50s and 60s, but the first really successful game was Pong, which came out in 1972. People said that they had never seen anything like it before. It was one of the first home video games that you played against another person for points. 1980. When people remember playing video games in the late 70s and early 80s, they often think of Space Invaders. That's because everyone was talking about it at the time. People of all ages said they loved it. 1990. Much smaller video game devices became available in the 90s. For example, you could take the Game Boy with you anywhere. It had lots of different games, including Tetris, which was the most popular. Many gamers said they played Tetris for hours and weren't able to stop. 2000. At the beginning of the 21st century, Nintendo said they were working on a new type of gaming device and they would produce games for the whole family to play. The device was called a Wii, and unlike other video games, the games were active and you could do exercise in your living room. The Wii became popular with a new group of people, the over 50s. So let's answer the questions about the timeline of video gaming. The first question, do you remember, which video games does it mention? So the video games that were mentioned in the article were Pong, Space Invaders, Tetris, and Wii. Do you remember or know any of these games? In this question, you're going to give your own answer. And question number 3, does anyone still play these games? Yes, these games are still played today. Exercise number 3, are these sentences true or false? The first sentence, when ping pong came out, it was a new kind of game. This is true. You can find it in the article where it says, people said that they had never seen anything like it before. Sentence number 2, Pong was a competitive game. Yes, this is true. It was one of the first home video games that you played against another person for points. Only boys enjoyed playing Space Invaders. This is false. Everyone was talking about it at the time. People of all ages said they loved it. A Game Boy only had one type of game. False. It had lots of different games. people couldn't stop playing Tetris. This is true. Many gamers said that they played Tetris for hours and weren't able to stop. The Wii had a different type of game and attracted new players. This is also true. The games were active. They were popular with a new group of people, the over 50s. Exercise number 4, complete the questions with these prepositions. Before we continue with this exercise, you have an information box at the top of the page which says many verbs are often used with a preposition. When you learn a new verb, try to also learn the different prepositions that you can use with it. Now, when you write or when you deal with this type of exercises, sometimes students confuse verb plus preposition and phrasal verbs, but they are different. In a verb plus preposition, the preposition introduces the following noun or phrase, and it doesn't change the meaning of the verb. Whereas in a phrasal verb, the particle is an adverb, and it describes the verb. In a phrasal verb, they sometimes have non-literal meanings, so they change the meaning of the verb. Also, a phrasal verb can be transitive, which means it takes an object, or intransitive, they do not take an object. And it may be separable, whereas verb plus preposition, it's not separable. And we have some examples here. Play with someone, play against someone, play for a team, play in a team. When we have play for a team, for is the preposition which indicates the following noun. In this case, it's a team. Some other examples that we can think of are ask for information, ask for something. So this is verb followed by a preposition. Or work with somebody, help with new information, help with the housework. These are examples of verb followed by preposition. So now, after you have read all the information about word building, verb plus preposition, you may continue with the exercise. Complete the questions with the preposition about, for, on, and with, which is used 3 times. The first one, do you often play video games with friends? So you play video games with somebody. Which video games are most people talking about these days? So we use talking about something. How much do you normally pay for video games on your phone? As we have studied the previous lessons, we know that you pay for something. How much do you spend on video games every month? So you spend on something, you spend money on clothes, you spend money on video games. When you leave the house, what do you always take with you? Some people think video games are bad for you. Do you agree with them? So agree with someone. Now, let's move on to grammar section. Today, we are talking about reported speech. What is reported speech? Have you ever heard of it? Do you have any information? Now, reported speech. We use reported speech when we want to repeat what someone has said in the past. Reported speech can also be called indirect speech. Reported or indirect speech. Mary said, we have an example. Mary said, I often visit my grandparents at the weekend. So this is a simple sentence. Somebody has reported what Mary said in the past, but the person who reported Mary has included the exact word that she has said. So I often visit my grandparents at the weekend, and has put her words into the quotation marks. This is called direct speech. So when you report the exact word of somebody else. Whereas when we make some differences, when we make some changes of what somebody else has said, then that is indirect speech. So what did Mary say? If somebody else asks you, what did Mary say? Then you report in this way. Mary said that she often visited her grandparents at the weekend. So in this case, we no longer have the exact word of Mary, but another way of it, another way of reporting her words. As you see, we have that. That in indirect speech is optional. If you want, you can place it in the sentence or not. It makes sense if we say, Mary said she often visited her grandparents at the weekend. So it's up to you if you want to place that or not. What have we changed in this sentence? So let's compare direct and indirect speech. In direct speech, we have the sentence, Mary said, I often visit my grandparents at the weekend. Whereas indirect, Mary said that she often visited her grandparents at the weekend. So we have changed the pronoun I into she, the pronoun my into her. So when we make this transforming from direct to indirect, we change the pronoun to indicate the person who spoke. In this case, we have changed I into she because it's a girl, it's Mary, okay? And she indicates Mary. What else did we change? We changed the tense of the verb. In the direct speech, we have the verb visit, which is in present simple. In direct speech, we have visited, which the verb in this case is in past simple. Okay, so first we have changed the pronoun and then the tense of the verb from present simple to past simple. Sometimes when we report sentences from direct to indirect speech, we have two common verbs that we use mostly, which are called reporting verbs, and they are say and tell. With tell, we always use an object before the reported speech. The object may be a pronoun or noun. For example, we have Sam told me he wanted to come. Or Sarah told Simon she would be late. Now, as you see, the verb tell, which is in past simple, is followed by the object, in this case me, which is a pronoun, or Simon, which is a name, a noun. Whereas when we with say, we never use an object before the reported speech. He said me that he was really happy. We cannot use the object. So we say, he said that he was really happy. Okay, so once again, with tell, we use an object before the reported speech, whereas with say, we never use an object before the reported speech. These were the two common reporting verbs or statements. Now, as we said before, from direct to indirect speech, we had changed the verb, the tense of the verb, and also the pronoun. But how do these tense change from direct to indirect speech? Let's see all of them one by one. We have a sentence, I always tell the truth. Tell in this case is the verb in present simple. We want to switch this sentence into indirect speech. Then we have She said that she always told the truth. Now, as we said, that is optional. We can remove it from our sentence or we can still have it. She always told the truth. From I, the pronoun has changed into she, and the verb tell changes into told. So present simple changes into past simple. Present continuous. I am searching for some information. Am searching, the verb in present continuous. In indirect speech, we have she said that she was searching for some information. So in this case, in indirect speech, the verb turns into past continuous. So from present continuous to past continuous. Present perfect. She has written 3 letters for her friends. Has written is the verb in present perfect, and in direct speech it changes into past perfect. He said that she had written 3 letters for her friend. So had written, the verb in a past perfect indirect speech. Past simple, my friend told me a secret. Told is the verb in past simple. When we change the sentence from direct to indirect speech, then we have, he said that his friend had told him a secret. So, had told is the verb in past perfect. So, when we change the verb from past simple then into indirect speech, then we have it in past perfect. Told, had told. Will, future simple, I will finish the project in 2 days. Then in indirect speech, it changes into would. He said that he would finish the project in 2 days. How about modal verbs? Do they change from direct to indirect speech, or they still stay the same? Let's see. In the direct speech we have, I may visit her tomorrow. In indirect speech, she said that she might visit her the next day. So, as you see, may has changed into might. She might visit her the next day. Be careful, the verb after modal verb still stays the same. So we do not change the form. It is base form, might visit. Must, I must visit the dentist tomorrow. Must changes into had to in the indirect speech. She said that she had to visit the dentist the next day. So from must to had to. Have to, I have to do all the above exercises. Have to changes into had to. She said that she had to do all the above exercises. So these were some of the modal verbs that change from direct to indirect. Once again, may changes into might, must, had to, and have to, had to. What about some time words that change from direct into indirect speech? Some of these words are now, next week, last year. So now changes into then or immediately. Let's see the example. She said, I must leave now. This is direct speech. Whereas indirect, she said she had to leave then or to leave immediately. So now changes into then or immediately. I told him I am coming back next week. This is direct speech. We need to change next week because when we report this sentence to somebody, we need it in the past. So I told him I was coming back the following week. So next week changes into the following week. He said, I didn't meet my parents last year. This is direct speech. Indirect, he said that he didn't meet his parents the year before. So last year changes into the year before. Some other words that need to change from direct into indirect are these, which changes into that, these, the plural form, changes into those, and here, which becomes there. She said this is the last bus, the direct speech. Whereas indirect, she said that was the last bus. So we can remove that in this case because not to confuse that with the pronoun that we need. So she said that bus was the last bus. He said, I have chosen these books. He said he had chosen those books. He said, I like staying here. He said that he liked staying there. So from here becomes there. So this was all about reported speech. Once again, let's summarize. Reported speech, when we use it when we report what someone has said in the past. We need to change the pronoun to indicate the person who spoke, and also the tense of the verb. Present simple becomes past simple. Present perfect, past perfect. Will becomes would. Past simple becomes past perfect. Also, we needed to change the time markers. Now becomes then or immediately. Next week becomes the following week, or last year becomes the previous year. Also, some other changes that we need to make are the words these that changes into that, these into those, and also here into there. Now, the homework for next time are all the exercises at page 131 and also workbook 11A. So this was all for today. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you for your attention and see you next time.